Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. Managing expectations in games is something that for some unknown reason, companies really struggle with on a pretty regular basis. A perfect example of this is the Diablo controversy that happened quite recently. And it was such an avoidable situation, and yet it spiraled out into just this complete mess where fans originally were being led towards this announcement and led to believe that there was a new main series Diablo game on the way, and then the announcement came and it turned out that it was actually a mobile game, and the ensuing fan reaction to that was not positive in the slightest. I mean, it just ended up being embarrassing for all parties, really, and certainly didn't help to sell any copies of those games. If the initial discussion of what was going to be in that announcement had just taken control of the narrative a bit better, and had actually discussed the fact that it wasn't likely to be a main series Diablo game, people's hopes wouldn't have been so high for them to then be crushed when the announcement came that it was actually just a mobile game. But instead, they made the age-old mistake that's been made so many times by so many other devs at this point, and it just leaves me thinking, why? Why does this happen so often, and why have developers across the industry not figured this one out yet? The most recent example that I've seen of this is in Destiny 2. The season of the Black Armory has been underway, and throughout the season there have been a series of releases of forges, which are a certain activity type in D2. The first couple of forges came out and people were like, okay, we understand what's going on here, we're looking forward to the release of the next forge, but the final forge, called Barguja, was described quite mysteriously in all of the kind of marketing leading up to it, in the roadmap and stuff like that. There was some association with this thing called Niobe Labs, and people weren't exactly sure how it was all gonna work. Then, on January 8th, which is the date that we were meant to be getting Niobe Labs, Bungie tweeted out and said that there was a new activity available in the world, and once that activity was completed, it would unlock the new forge. So all the people that thought that Niobe Labs was just gonna give us this forge and that would be that, instead were faced with essentially a wall in front of them that they had to work on riddles for in order to get through. Now, I come from a community that lives for solving Easter eggs, riddles, puzzles, codes, ciphers, etc. That is what we do day and night. It's our bread and butter whenever there is a new Call of Duty Zombies map. That's just the way these things work. And these hunts can go on for days and sometimes weeks. Hell, there was even a cipher that got solved towards the end of last year that took 5 years to find the solution for. Like, this is a very dedicated code-breaking and Easter egg solving community, and so for someone like myself, expecting some content but then being faced with a series of puzzles and interesting weird clues that you had to piece together seems like a really awesome challenge. But for the Destiny community, who are not trained on that same bread and butter content, it seemed to some like a kind of weird slap in the face. Like, what the hell? I just want my forge and I want it now. Why the hell do I have to do all this weird stuff in order to get through to it? It ended up taking 24 hours and they still didn't get through to that final solution, and eventually Bungie caved. They completely caved and they were like, you know what? We're just gonna open this for everyone, and you can still try and unlock this puzzle if you want, but it no longer does anything. Or at least it does something, but the reward is no longer the unlocking of the forge because everyone already has access to the forge now. And so when they did that, they kind of were seeking to put out the fire that had been burning of all of the people saying, this is terrible, why are you locking my forge behind this activity that is just like stupid codes and I hate it all? But then at the same time, they basically devalued the efforts of all of the people that were trying to crack the puzzle. Because these people had been like up for 24 hours trying this really difficult thing, and then just told that, yeah, actually, this doesn't have the grand reward that it previously did, and so your work is kind of useless now? It was a really weird situation and really unfortunate, because no matter what Bungie ended up doing in that scenario, they would have been making the wrong choice, right? If they just left it behind the wall, it could have taken weeks for that puzzle to get solved, and people would have been very upset with that. But then conversely, by completely taking away the challenge and just giving it to everyone, all the people that wanted the challenge are then also unhappy. And it's just a textbook example of Bungie needing to make a slight change with the way that they were marketing that specific activity, and then there wouldn't have been a problem in the first place. Consider this, okay? You're a Bungie player, you get your roadmap, and then you do something in your game, and completely by surprise, it's not on the roadmap, but it unlocks an entire new forge for you and the entire rest of the community to play. Now put yourself in the shoes of the people that first completed the Last Wish raid. When Last Wish was first completed back last year when Forsaken came out, it unlocked the Curse Weeks in the Dreaming City. If you don't play Destiny, what that basically means is people did this massive raid, they raced through this crazy series of dungeons, puzzles, etc. And when the first team ever completed it, it then entirely changed the physical space that that raid was accessed from and put a curse on it basically, which then would evolve every week from that point forwards. It was a world event that was incredibly done, really awesome to see, and it was that kind of spark that Bungie was chasing with this new event. They wanted another one of those situations where a team did something in game and that would unlock the forge for everybody else. They wanted to feel that sense of community. But the problem was that the 99% of Destiny players knew that there was a forge coming in the first place, and so they were expecting a forge, and instead it felt like they were being prevented from getting that content arbitrarily because of these Easter eggs and ciphers, etc. It would have been so straightforward for Bungie to just not mention that there was even a forge coming here in the first place, and then surprise everyone with this and create an awesome impact on the community. But instead, they had to do this weird thing where they told people that they had to solve it in order to get to the content, and it just left a sour taste in people's mouths. And it's unfortunate because I recently saw Destiny described as a cautionary tale in what happens when developers give fans what they want too much. And it kind of doesn't make sense, it's a little bit oxymoronic, but there is definitely some truth in that statement. The developers saw that people loved this world event, they saw that people loved what had happened here with this surprise unveiling of the Curse Weeks by completing something in-game, and one team altering the universe for every other Guardian, and they wanted to replicate that because people were saying that they loved it, but they focused on a specific narrow slice of it in such a way that they completely missed the point of what made it really awesome in the first place with that raid and with the Curse Weeks. They tunnel visioned on just the idea of one team unlocking something for everyone and neglected the importance of the context surrounding it and the actual surprise. And it sucks because I really like the puzzle that they put in. I think it's really cool. It's still unsolved to this day. Niobe's Torment Wave 7 has not been bypassed and cleared, and it just worries me that in a game like Destiny, when there is an entire season upcoming that is meant to be full of puzzles and ciphers and codes, Bungie is now at risk of kind of being in crisis mode and having to either scale back the puzzles because they're too difficult, quote unquote, for the community to solve in a timely manner. Every time the community gets stuck, Bungie's just gonna buckle to the people that didn't like whatever's happening and end up giving them the thing for free. And then it takes the challenge away and makes it all pointless. It's good that this whole controversy is happening now rather than in several months when that season is underway, but it's just unfortunate that a mistake this simple even got past in the first place. I mean, Vicarious were working really hard on these forges and on these puzzles specifically, and I'm sure they wanted everyone to be working on them really hard and excited by them, and instead, the whole thing has kind of been stained with this weird, not my forge drama. I again cannot state enough though, that this is not just a Bungie problem. I mean, you get fan outcry about things all the damn time, and knowing how to react to that in the right way and in the best possible way is just part of the job. An example of that that's kind of the inverse situation to what Bungie experienced happened to Spider-Man PS4, which is a phenomenal game, by the way. I highly recommend that you pick it up. Spider-Man did really well on PS4, it sold fantastically, but people were really hopeful to see a Spider-Man suit from the films put into the game. But the developers, Insomniac, had to stay silent on anything they might have been developing related to a suit being put in because of all the red tape involved with that kind of process. I mean, because you're working with the Spider-Man IP, and because you're then having to interface with the films as well, with different people owning the rights in different places, and then having to make abilities and having to make sure it didn't break anything else in the game, there's an awful lot of stuff that would have had to been figured out before they would have been able to actually announce and reveal and release that sort of thing. And so Insomniac stayed quiet, and fans slowly but surely got more and more vocal and angry and aggressive about the fact that the suit was not in the game. There was kind of this weird wave of people saying that Insomniac were like not listening to their fans, not giving them what they wanted. Insomniac would release the DLC and people would just be like, where's the suit from the films though? Like, I want the suit from the films, I don't care about this. And the whole time, Insomniac would have wanted to say they were working on the suit because they were, but they just couldn't do it. And then eventually, they released the suit for free, just as a gift to the fan base, once it was eventually ready to be dropped, and then from the outside, it looked like the fan outrage was what caused the suit to be put into the game, which just was not the case, but it sends that message because of the fact that they weren't able to talk about it until they actually released it. And so that's an inverted situation compared to Bungie, where they were sharing too little information, if you like, whereas Bungie overshared about what was coming and then disappointed people. And in the Bungie case, maybe there was a similar reason why they had to do it in the way that they did. Maybe it was affected, for example, by their transition away from Activision, which got announced yesterday. Maybe some kind of red tape in there meant that they had to market things in a certain manner. I don't know. I have complete sympathy for Insomniac in their situation. I think that that was a really unfortunate one where they just legally, because of copyright and etc., just could not do what the fans were all begging them for, and that was talking about this DLC that they were all working on so hard anyway. And it really just makes you think, like, I wonder if there is anything that could have been done there that would have better managed that entire situation. When is it right to cave to fan pressure? When is it right to even give the fans what they think they want? One of the conversations I had with Jason Blundell, the studio head, I believe, or creative director at Treyarch for Zombies, involved him saying that his role for Zombies quite often is finding out not what fans think they want, but what they really do need in order to keep enjoying the game. Fans often ask for one thing, but that's not what they need in-game to keep enjoying it. And understanding the nuance of that distinction was basically pivotal to him doing his job successfully. And so I'd like to ask you the question. If you were in Bungie's shoes, you had just had this controversy with Destiny, and you now had fan outcry on both sides from the puzzle folks and the people that just wanted the Forge, how would you change your strategy in the build-up to the puzzle season that's going to be coming in a few months' time? What would you have done differently if you were on the Spider-Man team? Do you think there's anything you could have done? And in the Diablo case, what might have been the best way to turn that into a positive situation rather than a negative one? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, guys, and just generally discuss this a bit in the comments down below, because I loved the puzzle that Vicarious created for that Niobe's Torment Forge unlock process. I just think that the way it was promoted and the narrative that therefore was told about it got out of control and ended up really diminishing the experience, which was really unfortunate. I've been MrRoflWaffles. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Drop a like if you've enjoyed. This, again, was another one of these videos from me that's covered a variety of games, and it would be awesome to see some support on the vid. Cheers, guys. See you next time. Bye for now.